Next thing I want to talk to you is one of the biggest mistakes that I see guys that are like kind of intermediate or pretty good at game make. And that is that they bring up the wrong frames and they don't bring up the right frames. Just quick primer. A frame basically is the perspective through which you're looking at a situation. Okay, so when I say frame, that's what it means, the perspective you're bringing to the situation. But so there are certain perspectives or certain frames that are going to help you to sleep with girls and certain frames that are going to hurt you in sleeping with girls. So for example, if the frame you have, the worldview or perspective you have is that sex is normal, girls like sex, when two people like each other, it's normal for them to express it physically. If that's your worldview and that's what you're expressing through your stories, through anecdotes, through your opinions that you express, then that's going to put the girl in an environment where she can have sex without being judged. However, if the perspective you're putting across is that like, oh, women are sluts and you hate that about them, or you're like maybe telling a negative story about some girl doing something that's a little bit overly sexual, the girl's going to register that and she'll be like, okay, the way to get social approval from this man is not to be sexual. Now, you may or may not have whatever perspectives you have, but if your end goal is to have sex with the girl, putting her in a frame where having sex is a negative thing is contrary to your objectives. Putting her in a frame where sex is normal and natural is very positive to your objectives. And a lot of guys, they're so caught up in just like trying to impress the girl or convey something or whatever. They lose track of what the underlying message of what they're saying is. Okay. The other thing is, we've talked a lot throughout this program about the lover frame versus the provider frame, right? Is she viewing you as the guy that is so high value she can just have sex with you and she can have sex with you quickly without making you go on many, many dates? Or is she viewing you as the provider, the guy that she wants to stick around and the guy that she wants to think is, that she is super like, would never cheat, is super angelic? Because if you want to sleep with a girl quickly, you probably don't want her trying to convince you she's an angel. If she's trying to convince you she's angelic, she's not going to sleep with you. So think a lot about what category you're putting yourself in and what frame you're putting yourself in, because that's going to dictate how the girl responds to you. And I see so many guys, they try and pick up girls and sleep with them, and they're coming at them with these judgmental frames, where they're like lecturing them that like they shouldn't drink or they shouldn't do other fun things or whatever, and it's all contrary to their end goal. Now, one caveat to this, right? We'll talk in the relationship section a little bit about training the girl into the behaviors you want. And it is true that if you want a girl to behave in a certain way where she's like, you know, has positive, healthy behaviors, yeah, you might want to train her for that sooner rather than later. But my suggestion here is don't bother with that until after you've had sex with her and you have some kind of connection with her, because your leverage at that point is going to be much, much, much higher. So it's just more efficient. Instead of trying to like lecture and teach her pre-sex and like get her into your do everything the right way and be responsible frame, which is going to make it hard to actually have sex with her. Instead, have fun with her, have sex with her, and then you can gradually introduce that frame after sex, because after sex, she's going to be rationalizing all the reasons she slept with you, all the reasons she likes you, and you're going to be in a position where she actually really wants to please you. Also, you can bring all those things up, and because she's already had sex with you, now being responsible doesn't make sex with you slutty, so you've avoided that hurdle. Okay, so that's a quick thing. We're going to talk a lot again in the relationship section about like training the girl for relationships, establishing your expectations and leading your expectations. So I wanted to make that quick point, but that's something I would think about post-sex a lot more. So I wouldn't think about that from the first moment. You don't want to go in being like the nagging grandfather. That's not going to get you